County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3. J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Mother Melanie Barbarito from All Saints Episcopal Church, Fort Worth. Thank you very much for coming down today.
My pleasure.
After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Let us pray. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send down upon those who hold office in this county the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. And we ask this through your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Members of the Court, we have several agenda announcements this morning. We'll start under the Administrator section, item 8A16. This is an MOU between Tarrant County and AARP. We're going to ask that we hold that for a week. Also under the Administrator section, 8A20. Which is the out-of-state travel request. We have added one additional person to that, so there's a revised court communication either in your red folder or in on your computer. Under criminal courts, item 8E1. This concerns interim funding of various grants. There is a corrected court communication on one. It was just a word that basically it was 60 days, and we had put 60 in parentheses, but we had stated that it was 30 days. So we've corrected that for the court's action today. Under juveniles, under juvenile services, item 8K1. This is a contract with MHMR. We're going to ask that we hold that particular item for 1 week. And then finally, members of the court, under purchasing, item 8M10. This is the Staples Advantage contract. We are going to take action on that. However, we are going to remove that from the consent agenda to the regular agenda. And that'll do it. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're right, you did have 7.
More than one, less than 3.
Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of August the 21st. For approval. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You have before you the consent agenda with the changes as outlined by the administrator.
Move approval of the consent agenda respecting the changes outlined.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Mays.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, I'm going to ask Ms. McMillan to come up and do this first one.
Judge, Commissioners, we're asking that you consider the nomination of Bell Helicopter as a Texas enterprise project. Some of you may recall that back in 2007, we did a similar nomination to the state for Bell as an enterprise, triple jumbo enterprise project based on the investment and the job retention they had at that time. As you know, early this year, they announced a huge project, and that we gave tax abatement on that project. They're putting in over $250 million in new investment for a new headquarters site and a consolidation and modernization of the location there in Fort Worth. They are now requesting that we nominate this new investment for enterprise project designation also. The original designation in 2007 was only a 5-year designation. That's all the zones are for, and is ending this year. Under the enterprise project legislation, Tarrant County has 9 designations. Because of the investment size, they're asking for a triple jumbo designation. That would take up 3 of our designations. We get these three. So, and also what it limits it to is you get 3, maximum of 3 within one municipality within the county. Now, we're into 1 year of the biennium, so the next biennium will start in 2013, so we're already halfway through. You get 9 per biennium. We haven't used any so far. So this would take up 3 of our 9, and it would take up any that we would want to do in the city of Fort Worth, because it takes up all of the 3. But we've not done any since 2007. Most of the times these projects actually go to the city, but because they're requesting the triple jumbo, the city of Fort Worth has other projects they try to use their designated enterprise project numbers for. What we're asking for you to do today is to approve the resolution enclosed that nominates Bell Helicopter as a Texas enterprise project and authorize submittal of the enterprise project application.
Also move.
We have a motion to second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. I want to thank Representative from Bell Helicopters here with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for all you do for our community in the past and I know in the future. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, if we can go now to item number 2. We're requesting that the Commissioners' Court approve changes to the medical examiner's fee schedule, which will be effective October 1, 2012, as outlined in your court communication.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, these next several items are all going to be interim funding. On item number 3, we're requesting that the Court approve interim funding as it relates to the continuation of the DA's Bilingual Victim Assistance Program.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion to second. Any discussion?
What's the source of this funding? Are all of these from the same source?
I don't believe so. What happened is that it's a typical state grant where the state fiscal year starts in September, and so they're still processing these grants.
All from the state?
Right. Yes, sir. Yes,
Which
sir.
would be the same source?
Yes, sir, but different funding elements within the source. You're absolutely correct, Commissioner.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, we could go to item number 4. This is the continuation of the District Attorney's Protective Order Unit. These funds are also from the Office of the Governor Criminal Justice Division.
Move approval. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 5 is for interim funding as it relates to the continuation of the Family Drug Court Program. These monies are from the Governor's office also.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 6 is going to be the continuation funding and interim funding for the Juvenile Drug Court for a period not to exceed 60 days.
Move for approval. Second. A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And this will be the final one. We're requesting the court approve interim funding as it relates to the continuation of the Sheriff's Victim Assistance Program.
Move approval. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Court, we could go to item number 8. We're requesting that the court approve the submission of 2 electronic voting access for individuals with disabilities grants to the Texas Secretary of State.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And then finally, members of the court, we're requesting that the court repeal the prohibition against outside burning in the unincorporated areas.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. I guess some areas have gotten some rain. We haven't got any rain recently. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
At any time that y'all want it to rain very heavy in the county, again, we'll get
bring it
Mr.
back.
Renoir to put a burn ban on for you. Thank you.
Stipple.
We have one item this morning for the court's consideration, and that's asking that you receive and file the Tarrant County financial statements for the 10 months ended July 31st, 2012.
So approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Snyder?
This management board is recommending the payment of the claim to AT&T in the amount of $1,452.76.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Sugar.
The criminal courts are seeking interim funding for the Veterans Diversion Court, the Mental Health Diversion Court, the Adult Drug Court Program, and the Domestic Violence Diversion Program for 30 days.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
These are also state grants.
Yes, sir.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Just a correction on that, that's for 60 days, not 30 days.
It is 60 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I apologize, 60 days.
That's what my motion says.
Ms. Glenn? Leave. Don't get caught in the middle of this.
I don't want to get caught on the tail end of it. Good morning. We have 2 items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Second item, we're asking the court to approve a revision to the table of organization to reclassify an HIV grant and data analyst position in public health. As outlined in your court communique, public health is requesting the reclass effective August the 29th. There is no impact to the general fund.
Grant funded.
Yes, sir.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Spur.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Public Health is seeking your approval for 3 items this morning. The first is a business associate agreement with Harbor Path, Inc. for the Public Health Department's preventive medicine clinic to participate in a single web-based pilot program.
Move for approval.
Second. Discussion?
I've been contacted by a firm that applied in response to the RFP or whatever document you issued, complaining of the time between their receipt of the RFP and the response date, that there was very little time in between those 2 events. Could you go through the process
Is it regarding this particular Harbor Path agreement? Because this was to really do a pilot project to give access to our clients that aren't in the state medication assistance program. This is another avenue for our staff to be able to refer them to this portal so that they can try to receive the prescription services that they wouldn't otherwise receive.
This is, Commissioner Brooks, excuse me, this is a business associate agreement. This was not an RFP, and it's simply a 4-month pilot program. There'll be no fee attached to it. At the end of December, we'll have an after-action report with Harbor Path and decide if we want to opt in or opt out. So we were only doing a BA agreement with them, and that's on the back of the court communique.
So that's a professional services type of arrangement that does not need to be bid?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's right. It's just a pilot program, and it's a business associate agreement. With HIPAA, sometimes we originate the business associate agreements, but in this case, they are the custodian of the information in the pilot program, and so we did a business associate agreement with them to enter into the pilot program. And we went with Ray Wright and reviewed the BA agreement and made some changes to modify so it would be appropriate for the state of Texas.
With whom should I put the complainant in touch?
We'll be glad to talk to him.
Sure. That would be Ms. Brewer.
She volunteered. She raised her hand.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is approval of a contract with Julia Hidalgo for the preparation of the fiscal year 2013 Ryan White Part A competing continuation grant application.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our third item is a memorandum of understanding with the National Center on Shaken Baby Syndrome. This is a program for our nurse-family partnership, in particular to use to help parents understand about how to respond to crying babies other than shaking them. And it actually comes with dolls that show what happens when you shake babies.
Move for approval. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rachel.
Does this team play this week? Yeah?
Sir, good morning.
Does your team play this week?
We do, Saturday. Jacksonville State. I'm not sure if that's in Kentucky or Florida or...
Is it a high school?
It's a junior high. Are you playing at home?
Sir?
Are you playing at home?
Yes, sir.
Of course you're playing home. They ain't got a big enough stadium for them to play it. Where was it?
Jacksonville State, I believe it's out by...
It's not in Jacksonville, Texas. It's not that long.
No. But it could be.
You know, you can take the train there from there.
We have 8 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid 2012-117. This is our annual contract for temporary clerical personnel. Our recommendation would be to award a per enterprise basis, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move approval. Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is a bid award recommendation for bid 2012-132. This is our annual contract for asbestos consulting services. Again, a recommendation would be to award on a per enterprise basis, selecting as our primary vendor the Braille Group, secondary Sims and Associates, and the alternate vendor Dougherty Sprague Environmental Incorporated.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our third item is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2012-133. This is our annual contract for indoor air quality consulting services. A recommendation would be to award on a per enterprise basis. Again, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors as shown in the court communique.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 4 is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2012-143. This is our annual contract for trash removal services countywide. Recommendation to be awarded on a per enterprise basis. Again, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 5 is a bid award recommendation for bid 2012-145. It's our annual contract for floor mat and shop towel services. Recommendation to award on a per enterprise basis, awarding to Airmark Uniform Services.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 6 is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2012-147. This is our annual contract for preventative maintenance on our standby generators. Recommendation to award on a per enterprise basis, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors as shown in the court communique. We are recommending rejection of a bid received from Southern Cummins Plains for not including the addendum.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 7 is an item in regards to bid 2012-130, annual contract for janitorial services. We are recommending rejection of all bids and asking permission to rebid with revised specifications. Those new specifications are ready to be released tomorrow. We've lowered the financial requirements back to match what we're currently operating under. We made some small tweaks to the specifications to simplify the process, and we're ready to go.
And I state the same objection that I stated when you brought this up the first time, that the error was on our part, that we should not be penalizing our vendors by making them go through the process again, especially since during the course of bidding the first time, their pricing and other business factors were exposed. We were supposed to get some notion from the district attorney's office about the advisability of, not the advisability, about the legality of extending the existing contracts, and I have heard nothing on that subject.
I don't think you can extend the contract for more than a month.
Why?
Because you're expending far more money than the bidding law The bidding law allows you to do without a competitive bid, $50,000. And I think you expend that much in a month, if I recall correctly.
So how long is it going to take to issue this RFP, receive the responses back, check the references, analyze the proposals, and bring it back to this court for award?
We're ready to go with the advertisement tomorrow. You have to advertise it for 2 weeks. We will be able to bring it back, I would imagine, within a week after that. There were 5 vendors that attended the bid opening. 2 were from out of state. The 2 vendors that 2 of the 3 concerning the pricing being exposed were, from our indication, much higher than the low bidder would have been.
That's the point. Now they perhaps
They
will
were
not be.
considerably higher.
At this point in time, we do not have a motion or a second.
I'll move approval. I second because I understand I'm concerned, have the same concern, but I think given the situation, we don't have any other option. We don't have any other legal recourse but to reject all bids and start all over.
Correct.
Wow.
What are we requiring with regards to financial statements at this time?
Either audited or limited review. We've talked to the auditor's department. We've talked to the DA's office about it. Everybody's good with it, as I understand.
Talk to me about what a limited review is.
Even a compilation.
So we're not really talking about a review. We're talking about
an audit. An audit is there, but we're not requiring an audit. We're requiring that someone, preferably a CPA, perform some sort of review or compilation of the financials that are submitted, so that they're not just prepared by someone within the organization or a bookkeeper, therefore that they're more likely to include all of the various components, both the balance sheet and P&L.
I'm a little nervous about you putting in there the term limited review, because I'm not sure from an accounting standpoint such a thing exists.
There is a review.
I understand that there's a review. I just don't understand what a limited
Okay.
review is.
We can quickly relook at that.
And that's kind of why I asked that, because, you know,
We had some that were compilations, so if you want us to actually label the type of reports, then we can.
yeah, I mean, if there's not, and I've been away from this too long.
I don't do that either, so.
But I'm just asking, if there's not officially a term that's called limited review, then I think we either need to put on there compilation,
It may be
review,
called
or
that. I
audit.
have to look that up. Ron did this, so I don't know.
And then maybe if we would like for that to be generated by someone.
Well, a limited review couldn't, if it's what it's called, or like a compilation, those can't be done but other than a CPA.
Okay.
So, again, I will look up and make sure that it's called a limited review or what it's called. But
Okay.
our primary goal here is to have someone outside of the organization
Exactly.
as an accredited accountant put together the financials. Not that they have to be audited, but that they're in compliance with just financial statement presentation.
So let's not put this thing out without y'all kind of having,
We'll verify that.
because the word limited
Yes, sir.
gives me pause.
We will get specific verbiage from right and left.
Any other discussion?
Just that I continue to be dissatisfied with this process. And to be told by the district attorney's office that I think you can only do something, I mean, that doesn't meet the standard of what we even asked for.
I understand and I share your concerns. I didn't hear the word think. I heard the word, we can't do this. Now, there's a lot of times when I may not be happy with what they tell me.
I think the alternative is we either reject this or accept what was bid and move on. And I'm willing to reject it and give an opportunity to, at a lower level of scrutiny, reluctantly, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us are
What's your
exactly excited, but I mean, according to the district attorney, we don't have the option of just extending beyond the 30 days. Or we have to get it done as rapidly as possible.
I think in this case, I think this contract runs out October 1st.
Exactly.
That's what I understand it. So
September 3rd.
we're still operating under the current contract. It hasn't been extended at all.
So what you're saying is, you said we might be able to go 30 days and stay within the thing, so that might actually give us till the end of October. But you don't think we can go beyond, and let me rephrase that. I don't want you to say you don't think. I want you to say we can't go beyond, in your opinion, 30.
I think, I'm going to use the word think because that's what I'm doing. I think that you can't extend this for a period of time that exceeds $50,000 in expenditures because you're at the end of a contract that has no more extensions in it. And it's not an area on which there's virtually any we can only look at the statute. That's what the statute says. And frankly, I don't see the difference between doing this now and doing this before the end of October as opposed to the end of September. Currently, it seems like we're at the same point either way, but that's y'all's call if you want to extend it for 1 month. But don't spend more than $50,000 on it. I don't know exactly what that number is for 1 month's expenditures.
We spend much more than $50,000 in a month.
Yes, we do. It's a $2.5 million, right at $2.3 million, I believe is what David said last time.
So we need to get it done by the end of September. Please vote. Motion passes 4-1.
And our last item, number 10, is an item in regards to bid 2010-013. This is our annual contract for office supplies with Staples as the awardee. We're asking the court to renew the contract, exercising the final two options for renewal.
I'll move approval.
Second.
And I asked for this to be pulled off the consent agenda because the one thing, as I looked through this, the one thing I saw was the 3%, but the one thing I didn't see listed in there anywhere was the rebate to the other vendors of the 1 or 1.5% that they talked about last week.
He mentioned, Paul Bodley, the gentleman from Staples, that made the presentation in the briefing session, that there were currently 2 to 3 members. I have no idea who they are that would receive the same consideration that Tarrant County would.
Well, I mean, we've got 65 people who are in the contract, as I understand it.
Correct.
And the rebates that they talked about last week, I thought, and maybe Tarrant County will get 3% for the first $10 million, 3.5% for $10 million to $20 million, and 4% for anything over $20 million. But then under the rebates ranging on an annual, the 3% annual based on sales, you're supposed to get, if you buy from 0 to 250,000, you get a 1% rebate. So it would seem to me like everybody who's currently on our contract, if they're buying, is going to get some sort of a rebate.
I don't have the document with me. I've seen we meet with Staples on a quarterly basis. There are some small expenditures, there are some large expenditures.
Well, I guess I don't have a problem approving this subject to, because one of the things we talked about last week was that if we were going to do this, that we were going to notify everybody who was buying from this contract that we had extended it, that the prices had remained the same, and that we were going to be getting a rebate for the overall purchases, but that they were also going to be getting a rebate for this.
That's for that certain level, yes, sir. We will send out the letter from our office. It'll be under our Tarrant County letterhead. We will mention, and we've talked to the DA's office about that, as I mentioned last week. We will put that out prior to October 1 to let the entities know that the prices will remain firm. I will have a chance to find out who the 2 or 3 are. I really don't. If I had the document I'm thinking of, I could tell you off the top of my head. It's not as many as you think.
Well, but I'm having a hard time understanding that if it's from 0 to 250,000, they get 1%. Then I don't understand why anybody who's buying doesn't get 1%. If we got 65 people or 65 entities using it, then it would seem to me like everybody gets at least 1%.
There are some small expenditures total for some of these entities. There's some small players in the 65.
I understand that, but if they're buying 0, if they're buying $1, I mean, let's not be ridiculous. We're not going to send them a check for a penny. But I don't see anything in here where it says that you got to buy at least 5,000 or 10,000 or anything else like that. And so it would appear to me that anybody who's buying under our contract would be subject to at least a 1% rebate.
I think what he might have done, and I'm just speculating, that they knew that there were 2 to 3 from $250 to $499. There were 2 to 3 at over $500,000. I think he probably just didn't, in the presentation of his PowerPoint, list the folks that are. I see what you're saying. Everybody should get something. Looks like.
I mean, the PowerPoint he put out said 0 to 250. They get 1%.
That should be everybody then.
Yeah.
I agree.
So let's just make sure of that as we go forward, and if there's any hiccup,
I'll bring it back to court.
then let's bring it back.
Yes, sir.
So in the motion, I would like for it to be subject to Staples acknowledging that the rebate applies for all purchases and that they will take care of the rebates to all of the other entities taking, purchasing under this contract. And your second?
Yep, I'll second.
Okay. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Good luck against North Texas.
At least we know where they're at. Now, where did Ron go? I see that Ron Wright kind of evaded. You lost your other person you ran her off. So you lost your other support, and I guess Ron's just kind of deserted the Arkansas thing here. So I hadn't seen him with his hog hat on yet. So moving right along. Are there any appointments today? There being none, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have 3 items to bring to the court this morning. The first concerns the update on the West Nile virus. Dr. Parker is here to address the court at this time.
Yes.
Here comes limited review.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for this opportunity to be back here today to discuss the West Nile virus. Here is the most recently updated map regarding West Nile virus in Tarrant County. You would ask that this be presented here today. It is also available on our website, and this information is also being distributed on a daily basis to our city partners as well. What I wanted to point out, not specifically listed on this information here, but things that we have been seeing regarding the West Nile virus recently, is that the number of cases by the onset of illness, so the date from which illness was reported, has been showing a downward trend in Tarrant County for the past 2 weeks, as has the incidence rate by onset of illness. And secondarily, that means that the case reports that we are seeing have also been trending downward. We are also identifying fewer positive mosquito pools with our sampling than we have seen previously in this season. And information from post-targeted spray, information on mosquito pools following targeted spraying, so the 3 consecutive days, is also showing that those measures have been effective. And I think that you can see and that actually the case numbers from Friday and Monday, when this was updated, that those have stayed the same. Now, of course, we continually receive reports every day, and so this information, will likely change this afternoon when we have new updated reports there. But as we mentioned last week, when the number of cases the average number of cases that we were receiving on a daily basis, that those things have been going down, that's where you get the rest of this information. That's what it comes across as, is lower incident rates by onset of illness and those other things that I just mentioned. You would also ask us to update you on the outreach that has been done in Tarrant County regarding the West Nile virus into different entities. I just wanted to show you this chart that we discussed the mini toolkits that were developed and specialized for each of these different partners. This is the information that was sent out to there. If you do notice, there is only a check mark by the JPS school-based clinics. The reason for that is that information was sent out to the nurse practitioners and the clinic managers for each of those. And as they may have that position in more than one facility, we just went ahead and put a check there, but it was sent to those persons as well. I also wanted to update you on what the Medical Reserve Corps has been doing. At the initial training, there were 20 volunteers. They have also participated in neighborhood canvassing when requested. And just last week, one of our MRC volunteers presented at a senior citizen center by request. 'Cause I think that you can see and that we have new updated reports every day, and so this information, will likely change this afternoon when we have new updated reports there. But as we mentioned last week, when the number of cases that the average number of cases that we were receiving on a daily basis, that those things have been going down. And secondarily, that means that the case reports that we are seeing have also been trending downward. We are also identifying fewer positive mosquito pools with our sampling than we have seen previously in this season. And information from post-targeted spray, information on mosquito pools following targeted spraying, so the 3 consecutive days, is also showing that those measures have been effective. And I think that you can see and that information will likely change this afternoon when we have new updated reports there. But as we mentioned last week, when the number of cases that the average number of cases that we were receiving on a daily basis, that those things have been going down. And secondarily, that means that the case reports that we are seeing have also been trending downward additional activities by just various Tarrant County public health staff in epidemiology, in environmental health services, and me as well, is that we have gone to and presented at updates at all of these different type meetings. That's governmental agencies, the civic organizations with the medical community, and also been at public hearings for spraying in different areas. And then now I'll open that up to questions.
I noticed that yesterday there were 5 cases that we weren't sure over the weekend. Have we got anything more on the status of those 5 cases?
Yes, we do have. We have resolved the issues with those cases. A number of those cases were determined not to be cases, so they won't ever be included in those counts. But the ones that we did receive all of the information that we needed for, they will be added to the numbers today.
Okay.
And that's why I mentioned that on the, if you I can go back to the graph, is that it didn't change from Friday to Monday, but it will likely change today because we were able to resolve the information that we needed.
Now, in addition to the prevention, what are we doing to educate the public regarding the symptoms of West Nile virus?
In all of these mini toolkits that have been distributed, there is a letter that people can share with that it describes the symptoms of West Nile virus, and also it suggests that should they have symptoms, when they may want to seek treatment. And so that is available in all of the mini toolkits. There's general information for, say, the superintendents who that was sent to, but we also provided them with a letter that echoes that information, and it describes the symptoms and when they should seek treatment.
Who do we deliver the toolkits to at the ISD? To the superintendent?
It went to the superintendents.
Do we follow up to make sure that they actually receive it?
No, I did not follow up on that to see if they actually received that. And this information is also being posted on our website today.
Well, I don't know if it's a good idea for you to follow up. Based on my knowledge, some of the ISDs in my precinct have not received those toolkits. So maybe I have bad information.
But we'll send out. We'll follow up and send out a letter to all of to the individuals who received that first, and we'll find out.
Thank you, Doctor.
Do you have the individual names of the people who you?
I do, but not with me.
Okay.
Dr. Parker, I don't know whether you're following the statistics on what's going on in Dallas County versus Tarrant County, but if you are we seeing, because they did their aerial spraying probably 10 days ago, are we seeing any difference? I mean, are the trends here similar to the trends there, or are they showing something significantly different that might be attributed to spraying, or is it pretty much the same thing?
Of course, I'm not as familiar with the Dallas County data as I am with our Tarrant County health data. But regarding the spraying and what they're seeing right now, it's still a little early to determine that spraying has had an effect on human case counts. That usually takes about 2 weeks or so, at least 2 weeks for the spraying to have an effect on human case counts. Now, I do believe just when I do receive their updates and look at those, their cases are not increasing. It's the same as ours in that they're not increasing as quickly as we have earlier in the season, but I can't speak to what their incidence rate is, and if their incident rate by date of onset is also decreasing. I don't have the information in that much detail to describe that to you. But what I can say is that based on the spraying that was done about 10 days ago, it's still a little too early to see if that translated into decreased human cases. Now, preliminary data that has been released, and it's general data, not specifics, is that the positive mosquito pools did decrease after that spraying, which is what we would expect after any type of effective spraying, ground spraying or aerial spraying. That's what you're looking for, is you spray adulticide because you want to see those positive mosquito pools decrease.
Well, yesterday I listened to a presentation by Denton County to the city of Southlake, and the presenter, I think, was the public health manager there in Denton County. And what he was saying was that when they do aerial spraying, that they felt that 50-60% of the airborne mosquitoes at that time would be killed by the aerial spraying. So I just thought that was a pretty big number.
And it's estimated that when you do ground spraying as well, that you do kill approximately the same number of mosquitoes. The difference between ground spraying and aerial spraying is on scale and efficiency, according to Dr. Janet McAllister of the CDC in a conference call that that several of our city jurisdictions participated on yesterday. And it may be that based on the amount of resources, because ground spraying does use a lot of resources, as does aerial spraying, but it's different types of resources on trucks, having that pesticide there versus planes. And it could be that a particular city who was looking at that they may not be able to effectively participate in ground spraying, but having had the opportunity to participate in aerial spraying, that may be something that is more efficient for them to participate in.
One of the things that I had, that they did discuss, at least on, I don't know whether we want to call it on a different discussion that we had about this, was somebody had asked the question, why do they do it 3 days in a row, as opposed to, spreading it out a little bit. And the indication was that really in order for the mosquito to be killed, whether it's by ground or by aerial, that it has to be flying at the point in time that it comes in contact. And so that the reason you're doing that is to hopefully over a 3-day period, you'll cover the ones that may not. A lot of them seem to house in the sewers or someplace undercover, so they would not be impacted by that. So the hope is that
Who makes a decision on when we're going to spray? Is it the health department or is it this court?
Well,
if we keep getting reports that these counties are spraying, these cities are spraying, and they're getting some results, they're killing some mosquitoes, and we're sending out kits to different places and burning a lot of paper, but I haven't seen us killing very many mosquitoes over here.
I think that ultimate decision, as far as the cities go, rests with the city councils. With this court, I would say it rests with the court or with the individual. I mean, I think if individually, y'all felt like based upon your conversations with your cities and the public health, and I think you make that call as far as the unincorporated area.
Well, I can say that looking at these maps, that the HEB area has a significant amount of activity, and I think they are either sprayed or are working on spraying.
Currently, there are 11 cities in the county that are spraying. The HEB area has 2 or 3 of them that are spraying.
I would hope that if we have equipment, we would be on the ground helping them, and I don't think we are.
We have equipment.
And I think we have an obligation as the county health department to do that. And if we're not doing it, we need to. And,
well, I don't know that we've been requested from the cities.
We've gotten calls. What do we do? What do we do? And and we haven't. They're doing it on their own, and they got a lot of area to spray in those 3 cities. And if we've got the equipment, I think we ought to be out there helping. Same thing, Commissioner Johnson's area. So.
And I informed you last week that our precinct is ready to go. We're just waiting for your instruction as far as working with the city on spraying or whatever it takes. So we just need for you to give us something calculated decision so that I do acknowledge that public health is not my area of expertise. So I do need to rely on your direction.
Well, we are specifically in your precinct. We talk with the city of Arlington when they have cases. We report that information to their local health authority, and they are discussing that internally. And should they ask for our assistance with additional spraying in their community, then we will definitely pass that along to you and let you know that, and be of any of assistance to them that we could.
If the city manager of Arlington is right now, he is satisfied with the level of participation and the interaction that we have with the city of Arlington. So I'm good with that. But just want to let you know that we are ready to go just whenever.
Absolutely, and the same occurs with other cities and municipalities in Tarrant County. We work with them on that. We discuss the data with them. We talk to them about the mosquito pools, what they have, what resources they have to address the issue in their city, and if they do need additional resources, then that's when they would be contacting Tarrant County Emergency Management, and then we would be finding additional solutions to assist them.
Have any of them asked, would you spray? Would you help us spray? Should we spray?
Yes, I mean, we get the question.
Did you hear what he answered?
Yes, I did.
So you,
I did. He asked
us to spray.
He's asked a couple of questions. One, he said, have you had people ask us, should we spray? That was one of the questions.
Spray. I think
And
we've been requested
to help them spray.
To either spray, or have anybody asked you, would you help us spray? Or do we need to spray?
Okay.
Ground spray.
Right.
Talking ground,
right.
something that evidently we have the equipment and the know-how, I hope, if we have the equipment, we have the know-how to do this.
Yes, and we have been asked by one city if they could use our equipment to spray, because they were considering spraying in their area. And at the time, because we were looking at we were looking to determine if there were clusters available, or if there were clusters that which we should have spraying, and we had to keep that one truck and the people that we have in reserve for Tarrant County. And so what we did is that we asked them to send a request to Tarrant County, and we forwarded that to Emergency Management, and they helped address that situation for that city if they needed that equipment. Now, regarding the second question of should you spray, yes, when we discuss with the cities their numbers and their information, they do ask, should we spray for this? And there have been cities across Tarrant County where we say, based on the illness that you're seeing in the county, based on the illness that you're seeing in that particular zip code, based on the positive mosquito pools that you're seeing there, that would be the next step in the process, would be to do targeted ground spraying. And that has occurred in cities in Tarrant County recently, city of Fort Worth being an example, in at least 2 different locations.
What about in the unincorporated area?
In the unincorporated areas, we have not identified a case cluster, which we identify case clusters by multiple human cases, as also positive mosquito pool sampling located together in a certain time frame to determine that there would need to be spraying in any part of the unincorporated areas. So we have not identified a hot spot or a cluster that we think would require that intervention at this point.
If I could make a comment, I think the judge described it pretty well. If any court member wants the county to spray in the unincorporated areas in your precincts, if you will either let me know, and we'll take care of it.
You'll do what?
We'll take care of it.
Well,
I'd like to have my area sprayed.
And also, to answer your question, I don't mean to cut you off, but we are working with the city managers, and we've asked them if they need assistance. Now, this is the first time I heard that we might have been asked, but
this was a couple of weeks ago that request was made. They were doing pre-planning, as was everyone else at that time.
Well, let me just last night I probably learned more about this than I've learned here in court the last month. One of those airplanes that are doing the aerial spraying, one plane, covers in one night what 40 trucks can do in one night. Now, do they do a better job? I don't know. But do we have 40 spraying trucks? Do we have 40 people that are trained? Does the state pay if we send out 40 trucks to go do that? And it doesn't cost the county any money? I don't think so. Aerial spraying, they do. I'm just saying. I know you got hoops to jump through, but so far in our area, aerial spraying is being paid for by the state of Texas. Denton County's getting it. City of South Lake's getting sprayed.
Dallas County.
No charge. I mean, the state's picking up the tab. No charge to the county. I think we need to look. I'm just sitting here looking. I got 35 of those red dots in precinct 3. Okay? That bothers me. And I just think that we got, I'm not sure we had waited too late. I don't know. But we need to be leading as Tarrant County Health Department, not following, not letting the cities. I think we need to be giving guidance to the cities and coming up with a plan to rid our county as much as we can of this problem. And I'm hoping that, maybe we're seeing a decline and it's fixing to end. I don't know, but
I think the public health and emergency services are talking with the emergency service folks in the cities and with the city managers and with the councils. And they're talking with them and with CDC and with the state. And if, because of the red dots, they feel like they need to be sprayed, then the city is making the decision as to whether they want to spray by ground or whether they want to spray aerially. I think they're looking at the aerial spraying. In order for the aerial spraying to be paid for by the state, we have to first declare an emergency. We've not done that because, again, yes, in those areas, in talking with the cities, they felt like they were okay with the ground spraying. Now, when they've been offered the aerial spraying, some have accepted. South Lake, I believe, accepted, you said last night. Irving did not. And Grand Prairie did. And Grand Prairie, when they sprayed Grand Prairie, they asked, and they went ahead and sprayed the part of Tarrant County that was Grand Prairie. Again, we have been talking with the state and with CDC, and we've been listening to the recommendations based upon the pools that we found. And, we can go forward, I think, with the ground trucks. The aerial spraying, I don't know what they would recommend. When you look at that and you look at where there are positive mosquito pools, they are primarily up in your area. You're correct.
Well,
we hope
they're in your backyard because most of them are in Hearst.
Well, I understand that.
That was the first time Dr. Parker presented, or Lou presented, the Public Health Department presented. About a month ago, we were given a map. And I pointed out then that the major activity was north of 30 and east of 35. That hadn't changed a bit.
No.
In the month since we started having these presentations. It would seem to me that we need to be in there doing something.
We are communicating regularly with the cities. And we can be in there regularly doing something, but we can't be in the cities unless they invite us to come in.
I don't think we've offered to come in and spray. I think we've
Yes,
offered.
Commissioner, we talked with the cities. Melissa is talking with their emergency folks on a daily basis.
And that we're willing to go in there and do ground spraying for them.
And the ones that are doing the ground spraying, they've not asked for us to come in and do ground spraying for them.
I'm not sure how much capability we've got anyway. I think
Sounds
we've
like we
only
got a
got
truck.
two units.
I think you're right.
We used to have 2 sprayers.
Melissa,
in our
come on up
precinct.
and
I mean-
chat a little bit about that.
You're probably right. We have one truck. So,
Morning.
Morning.
We have had a few cities call and ask where they can get help with the services to spray. Right now, the way that emergency management handles it is we ask the cities to provide mutual aid to each other. So I've been coordinating efforts between cities to get the smaller cities that don't have equipment scheduled. For instance, Benbrook and White Settlement, we're going to help each other, taking turns with getting their area sprayed. Aside from those, we haven't had any, and I have asked on a couple of occasions, not just do you need something, but would you like for us to get you some assistance from the state? And right now, in several emails from both emergency managers and from the city managers, right now they're saying they're fine because they're doing their own spraying in their targeted areas. I think that one solution to the problem on the map may be to provide maybe a more current map for the amount of time that it takes for a positive test, to kind of, the dots there include all the historical data from this epidemic, when we should really be looking at the lifetime of the infected mosquito that could be there. But we've actually just started the conversations about the lifetime of the mosquitoes and what should be done. One of the things that has been sent out is the result that all the samples are dropping, but they're not just dropping on a daily basis. The results that we're giving you are sometimes a week and a half and 2 weeks old, which is standard across the way EPI does things. So we're looking to take care of a problem that occurred 2 weeks ago.
Do you have an inventory of our sprayers?
I do not.
Does the health department have an inventory of the sprayers?
Louis, shaking your hand.
somebody say,
You have what?
We have one.
One sprayer in the county?
Yes.
Well, we had 2 when the health department took over. What happened to those?
If you're going to speak to the court, please come on.
If you've got something meaningful to say, come forward.
come up, please.
Up here.
And Commissioner Johnson, one thing that we can do for your area, if you have a concern, and I think your concern is probably more in your unincorporated area, we can begin to work with those cities that are doing their spraying and ask them to kind of spread out a little bit and assist them with the supplies for that. That's not a problem.
All right, Gary Rothbart, Public Health, Environmental Health Division. About the sprayers, when this came out 10 years ago, we bought a brand new sprayer from a company, and it's calibrated and designed to spray the current type of pesticide we use. The sprayer that was there before used malathion, which is a greatly out-of-date pesticide, okay? And the unit could not be converted to be able to spray the type of ULV type of pesticide that we use now. So we just left it abandoned.
One sprayer.
One sprayer. But we have pesticide and we're prepared to spray as needed. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
So the old sprayers are obsolete and no good anymore?
For the type of pesticide that we're using. Okay, it probably could be used for other types, but not the type of spraying that we're using now, which is ultra low volume type of pesticide, which is not the type of device that old sprayer is designed to do.
Was the spray that we used to use, we followed, is that outlawed now? Can we not use it?
I don't believe it's outlawed, okay, but...
It'll kill mosquitoes.
Yeah, it'll kill mosquitoes. Another thing that it does a lot of damage to personal property, okay? It's very damaging to automobiles and other personal property that really is not designed for the urban type of setting. It actually is used in urban settings, okay, such as maybe a farm or something like that, but it's not really designed for a urban type of pesticide application.
So what does it do to cars?
It destroys the paint, for one. So, I wasn't involved when we used it here in Tarrant County, but I will say my previous experience found that when we sprayed for mosquitoes and we used that type of device, that we got more complaints about the spraying than we did about the mosquitoes. So,
I never had a complaint about cars losing their paint. They were thankful that mosquitoes were gone.
well, we could bring it out of mothballs and possibly use it. That would be a decision that, if you want to go with, we can investigate.
Well, I think we ought to look into it. I mean, we've got the equipment. So far, all we've done is send out packets. We haven't killed a mosquito. Unless we're killing those we trap.
Well, that's right. The package that we're sending out is really meant for personal education, protection, because we can go out and try to kill the adult mosquitoes, okay? But our efforts have been trying to do to personal protection, the 4 Ds, because that's the thing we're trying to prevent. Because even if we do spray, it's a two-part thing. It's spraying for adults and citizens trying to protect themselves from being bitten.
We've also provided training to every one of the precincts and the municipalities for the distribution of the larvicide.
Yes.
So we're doing that. We're not spraying, but we're doing other things besides the prevention piece. And we've asked the cities if they needed any help on the larvicide piece. Most of the time, the cities, at least the larger ones, have their own environmental health people, and they say they're going to do that. Now, we're going to reach out to the smaller ones, and we'll be out in the unincorporated area, Commissioner, and we'll move this thing forward.
I've also talked with, like, for example, the North Tarrant Express, the construction folks. They've indicated that they're mindful of the standing water and are doing whatever they can to move that around and to work in that. So I do believe that we're doing a lot in a lot of different fronts. And I do believe that we're communicating with the cities. And if the folks that are communicating with you, I mean, I think for a while, some of the emergency folks were not getting the word maybe up to the city managers or to the council folks. But again, we're talking with them on a very regular basis. And if a mayor or a city manager says that they want us to help, then I think we're standing by to help, or to help coordinate, just as Melissa said. There's a lot of equipment in the county. We don't need to all, I don't think, duplicate having the same equipment. And if we can share,
a lot of people live out in unincorporated areas.
I think we can go to those cities and we can get them to help lend us equipment, just as we give them equipment and let them use equipment, or we basically furnish equipment to help them with the roads. I would like to hear a lot more. I mean, before we go and use an old sprayer, I'd rather talk with the cities about using maybe some of the newer equipment to do the spraying. If we need to spray if any of y'all feel like you need spraying in your unincorporated areas, then I hope we would approach it in that manner.
So what's the plan moving forward?
With respect to adulticiding or spraying for mosquitoes?
With respect to curtailing the mosquito problem and eliminate it altogether. So what are we going to do?
What we're going to do is to continue what we have been doing by assessing the information that we're getting, working with our city partners on on their information and what recommendations that we may have from them, as has been discussed, assist them and with resources if they do need that, and if those can be provided in the county, within the county, great. If those cannot, then push those resource requests to the state. And as we've talked about today, if there are particular areas, we'll be responsive to that, and we'll get it taken care of.
So the city areas are taken care of by coordinating with the city?
Yes,
the unincorporated area, how are we communicating to the folks living there regarding prevention, regarding symptoms?
Yes, we have had a number of our environmental persons out there if a case has been identified in an unincorporated area.
You go door to door?
Yes, we treat that just like cities treat that, and we send out information teams that go door to door to look for ways for source reduction, to get that information out to them about the preventive message and also larviciding. So we treat the persons in our unincorporated areas just as persons are treated within their city, and we go out there to them with that information.
So what I'm hearing from you is, I'm speaking in Precinct 2 now, you are not recommending spraying in the unincorporated area, ground spraying, yet, because you don't have a hot spot identified, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's your expert opinion.
Yes, that is our opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Just for whatever it's worth, we are the Tarrant County Public Health Department. That's the entire county. That is cities and unincorporated. It's not just the unincorporated areas, and that we're going to take care of them, and the cities are going to take care of their part, of their problem. It's Tarrant County's problem, the entire county, and we need to address it as the entire county, and we should be working on it from that standpoint, not just looking at, well, the cities are going to take care of it. Because some of the cities can, some of the cities can't. It's our responsibility. I'm reading right here, safeguarding our community's health. That's y'all's job. It's our job. And we're sitting up here talking about, well, we're going to do this for the cities because they can do their own deal, and we're not going to do anything in the county, in the unincorporated area. At this time, we got to look at the whole thing, and we're not, and that bothers me. So,
I know that we have been communicating with the city of Arlington, the city of Mansfield, the town of Pantego, the town of DWG, and the city of Kennedy. That's in southeast Tarrant County. We have been in communication with them, collaborating and supporting them in this issue. Okay, my concern is in the unincorporated area because I haven't been receiving any specific instruction from public health. But after court, I'd like to get together with you so we can make some decision on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Dr. Parker, the map that you, along the lines of what Melissa was saying earlier, the map that is up there shows the positive and the negative sites that you are the pools. Is there at any point in time, do those dots drop off?
We have been working on trying to do a time lapse of those that shows not only the historical data, but the data from the most recent pool, but we do not have that ability yet.
Okay.
But I've made a note of that, and we will definitely, if it requires another map, we will definitely get something up there.
Because that would at least show the most recent positive pools or negative pools that we've located or that we've come across. And if some of these, again, in our, the northeast area, while, there are a large number of the red dots, and I know that in many of the places where those red dots are, that those cities have done some ground spraying. But I would still like to know if we've done additional recent tests and what had been a red pool is no longer that. I'd like to know that.
Yes, we test twice weekly on our mosquito pools, and so those tests will be run today, and the results will be out later. But we run those tests twice a week from different cities. We do prioritize the samples as they come in, especially if there is a city jurisdiction that has been spraying and they're doing post-spray testing. We are running, we are prioritizing those samples for them so we can make sure they get in the next run. But we are doing sample testing twice weekly.
So if a pool was positive and red, and you'll test that same pool again the next week twice?
It depends on where the cities locate their particular pools for that. Where they set the traps for their mosquitoes, because it's a partnership. We work with the cities on that. They put those traps where they would like that testing to occur. Now, in general, we can say that we have had decreasing positive samples over the county. The number of positive testing that we have received has been decreasing.
But if a pool was red one week and then they kept the pool in exactly the same place and the next week it showed negative, does the red change to green?
No.
On this map, no, because this is a historical map.
That's what everybody's saying.
Can we use our GPS system?
Let me try to answer this. We've already spoke. We talked yesterday evening and then this morning again that this historical map is one, it plots everything and it never pulls anything off. And what we are going to be doing, and hopefully we'll have it for you next week, is we'll have a map that shows the latest 2 weeks of data, both the positives and the negatives, so that you can see where these pools, how many new ones are coming online, and basically if there is a clustering of negative pools yet.
And so and I guess the other thing that I would request over the next week is that for your office, talk with each one of the commissioners, not their staffs, but the commissioners, about their particular unincorporated area and their precincts, and to determine whether or not they want their unincorporated area sprayed. And leave that to their individual decisions. And then if they do, then Melissa, if we need to work with other cities about getting their trucks to help cover those areas, then let's do that. And if there's a problem, let's find out about it and see if we can't get that taken care of.
Judge, do you totally not want to consider aerial spraying?
There have been no indications from the state, from the cities, or from the CDC at this point in time that aerial spraying was something that they recommended. So at this point,
in fact, I've heard them say on a conference call that they did not consider it appropriate for Tarrant County at this time.
and I have, when I talk with folks, I get about an equal number. I have people come up to me that said, hell no, I don't want aerial spraying. I don't even want ground spraying. And then I have others that say they want ground spraying. So what I'm basically doing is trying to listen to people from the state and from the CDC and do as they said. Again, I'd like to see an updated map. I do believe that at least right now, and we've got about another 6 weeks, probably 6 to 8 weeks of this. So there's nothing that says it might not go and it might not spike up. But at least over the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing a declining number. So, again, we were on a call yesterday with a lot of the cities. I didn't hear a single one of them say, we're not getting from y'all what we need. We've been talking with them. We've been working with them on a daily basis. If they request something, we've been working with them. A lot of these cities are fairly independent, and they kind of believe they do their own thing. And so, but I've not heard anybody ask us to do something where we haven't jumped to it and did everything we could to help them in the process that they want. So I do believe that we are at least working and communicating with them and, talking to them about prevention, talking to them about the several of the cities that I think were at your training.
Right.
So, we continue to work on the larva sites, the mosquito dumps. If there is ground spraying, that is being recommended, many of them are doing that. If they don't have trucks, we're working with them to try to get that. Next week, we have a big spike and CDC and the state says, you know, we really think y'all need to consider the aerial spraying, then we'll do that.
Okay. I have one more question, Dr. Parker. This is really just for my point of information. Thursday, August 30th, and Friday, August 31st, from 9 p.m. to midnight, the city of Grand Prairie will be spraying. And
we're going to pray for an easterly wind.
Part of the area that they're spraying is going to be in Tarrant County. Are they solely responsible for informing the people living in that area, or do we have something to do with that as well? Because they said, you know, they need to, the children need to stay indoor, the pond needs to be covered up, the dogs need to stay inside, and the pets and so forth. I mean, again, this is just for my knowledge. Is the city of Grand Prairie solely responsible for communicating with people living in that area? Or is that something that we should help with, we should communicate with? How does that work?
The city is responsible, but we are available to assist with that if they would
request.
Yes, if they would like us. We have MRC volunteers who have participated in those things in the past, the neighborhood canvassing, getting that information out there. And should the city of Grand Prairie need that assistance for those Tarrant County residents, we'd be happy to call them up and send them out there to do that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Anything else at this time?
No.
Thank you very much. Next is our budget issues, and I believe one of the issues that we have rolling forward, our elected officials' compensation has to be set in order to advertise next week.
Well, actually, we need to advertise it by Friday, so it has to be set today.
Okay. Last week we talked about the JPs and ended up increasing their compensation. I really believe that if we're increasing the JP's compensation, we need to adjust the constables' compensation also, especially in light of the fact that they don't do weddings. Just thought I'd throw that in. And if you took the percentage of an increase in your salary that we gave the JPs, and I think the constables would come in slightly under 95, 94.7, I think, Commissioner Johnson, what you indicated. Right? I might recommend that we just take that to 95,000 and move that as a.
We need to understand that that includes, they don't get 3% on top of that.
Right.
Nor do the JPs.
Right.
That's a position I've advocated strongly for several weeks. I'll second your motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, with that correction on the constable salary, then what we will be doing is this will be the notices that we'll be publishing in the paper as it relates to those particular elected officials.
Now, and you wanted to keep it right under 95,000, right?
No, we're going to keep it right at 95,000.
Well, I mean, if
95,000.
well, you've got to keep in mind that we have 26 pay periods, and it doesn't always work that easily.
We'll make it work.
So it would come. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Ty. This is what I get.
So rounding to the pennies is going to be
94,999.84.
okay, and
Just
I would
like
assume that the justice of the peaces will be
104,999.96.
okay.
Fine.
Thank you.
Okay. So, did we vote?
Anything else? We vote. The motion was that we would increase the constable's annual salary to 94,999.84. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And then there's One other issue that we'd like to go ahead and see if we have consensus on, this concerns the Sheriff's Department, or law enforcement pay issues as it relates to the both the step system and also to lump sum issues. Debbie, you want to go ahead and talk about that, or is HR going to do that?
Whichever. You want to, Robin? As long as I don't get in trouble for interrupting.
No, you will get, in fact, you have a few things to say as well. And I believe Ange has a handout. We've provided for you a breakdown based on the discussions of last week. You might remember we brought to you a recommendation or an option of a step increase with no structures. And then the court members asked us to provide some cost estimates for a 1%, a 2%, or a 3% structure adjustment. And we've provided those costs for you. Option A is a step increase only, no structures, and that totals about $2 million. If we were to do option B is a 1% structure alone with no steps, and that would be about $794,000. Option C is a 2% structure without any step increases. That'd be about $1.6 million. The option D is a 3% structure with no steps, and that would be almost $2.4 million. And then if we begin to combine those, meaning we give a structure adjustment and a step increase, and the structure adjustments would happen on October the 1st, with the step increases being spread throughout the year based on the employee's review date, as we've done in the past. And option E would be the step and the 1% structure, which would be 2.6. Option F would be the steps with a 2% structure, which is a total of 3.1. And option G is the step increases with a 3% structure with a total of about 3.7. And so those are our options that we have provided for you for law enforcement, keeping them on a step system as was discussed last week. And then, of course, previously you all had voted on the non-law enforcement individuals or pool to be a merit pool, which is about 4.1. And then those totals are there. I'll be glad to answer any questions or address any issues you might have. And Debbie, speak up if you need to.
Well, of course, the thing we've mentioned in the past, and we talked about it some last week, is that what we're looking at also is the fact that whichever options we take, whether it's just with law enforcement or the non-law enforcement, there is an additional impact as we go into 2014. And that is listed on your spreadsheet there. So you can see from option A to G. And that's a dollar amount that we'll be looking at in annualized additional salaries as we go into 2014, because all of these options are awarded systematically throughout the year. None of them are holistically for 12 solid months, which is what we did this fiscal year.
Not for the law enforcement folks.
It's true for the non-law enforcement too, because we're looking at an award date of January, and we're taking...
But for everybody else, it's January forward.
Correct.
For the law enforcement, it's throughout the year.
Throughout the year.
Okay. And so what you're saying is that, for example, in option A,
correct, if
we just re-implemented the step system and allowed everybody to move a step at some point during the year, there would be 1.2 of step increases. There'd be 822,000 of lump sums.
Those are kind of backwards. It's 1.2 for the non-law enforcement folks.
No.
Not what it
I'm
says.
sorry. I'm looking at the wrong. You're right. Okay, I advanced downward. Sorry.
Okay, then it's 4.1 million for non-law enforcement for a total of almost 6.2. But then what you're saying is that in the next year, as a result of the timing differences, that the 3% plus putting the step system back in on an overall basis under option A would eventually cost us about $8.2 million.
Correct.
Okay.
And I wanted
annual basis. That's a recurring.
That's correct.
That is a recurring annual cost.
That's correct.
And I wanted to also clarify a point that I made last week about the non-law enforcement individuals. Those that are maxed out currently will be eligible for only up to a 3% merit. We won't allow anybody to go above max or get a lump sum in the non-law enforcement structure.
And there is one other difference that we're jointly recommending this year. In the past, with the non-law enforcement people, when we've looked at structure adjustments, we are looking at increasing our salary ranges for non-law enforcement by 3% on both the men and the max. Normally, in the past, we would have funded that that structure adjustment separately for the higher-end rate of the newest hired individuals, and then many of them would also be eligible for a merit increase. Going forward, our recommendation, joint recommendation, is that whatever that structure adjustment impact on the newest hired employees, those that are currently below the new hiring rate, would come out of their merit. And those structure adjustments for non-law enforcement would not go into effect until January.
Correct.
Okay, we have an audience participation. Bobby, you want to come forward at this time and make any comments?
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
I just want to reiterate what we talked about last week, the importance of the steps and the compression issue that has been caused at the bottom end of 51Es and 53Ds. And we really feel like that needs to be tackled this cycle rather than put it off to just another Band-Aid and creating more problems down the road. And that, what we talked about and suggested was those employees hired 3 and 4 years ago that haven't received steps get 2 steps, and those that have been hired in the last 2 years just get 1 step. That divides those numbers up and helps start solving that compression problem. And whether you do a structure adjustment or not, along with unfreezing the steps, we really feel like in the end, certification pay is going to, will be most effective on those that are topped out in the pay scale, wherever they're at, but it'll also help bring in new hires that are better quality people and cut down on liability issues and just put better officers out there in the field doing the job. And in order, so, we got all these different issues that are surrounding our salaries besides just the pay that we're trying to look at as a law enforcement association, and we feel like these are steps in the positive direction to help start solving some of those issues. And I thank you for your time and your considerations.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks. Debbie,
Yes, sir.
have you put a pencil to this 1-step, 2-step proposal that the Law Enforcement Association has recommended?
We did not. But let's emphasize that while they may not have gained salary from step increases, they did gain salaries from structure adjustments over all of those years. 2010 was the only year that we had no salary adjustments whatsoever. And law enforcement has been treated exactly the same that non-law enforcement has in 2011, 2012.
We are going to conduct a study of salary comparing to other industry and other public institutions.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
And I looked at some of the information presented to me, both from the HR and from the Law Enforcement Association. And I do have several concerns, being the compression issues and so forth. But I think at this point of the stage, it's a little bit late, running out of time to solve this problem comprehensively. If we try to deal with the issues right now, I'm afraid we will be, excuse me, my fault. I think we should at least unfreeze a step and then take a more comprehensive approach to solving this compensational issue once and for all, instead of keep adding patches on top of patches on top of patches. But I know to do this, we need to have that study coming back, and we need to take time to communicate among ourselves with HR, with the law enforcement association, with the sheriff department, to come up with a total, complete solution. And I think that's the right approach. Just my opinion.
So you're recommending option A?
At the very least.
Other thoughts or comments?
Well, I can certainly support that.
For option A?
As long as we're going to do the study.
We are
in time to include it in next year's budget.
Well, and I've got a note
deliberation.
here. I'll get with HR to see if you got the quotes back.
I've already spoken to the Hay consultant, yes.
We'll have that as an additional recommendation for our final pass at the budget next week.
We're also going to be talking with COG.
Right. And I guess the other thing, I mean, let's target the 1st of March when all the budget stuff is due in, so that we don't end up finding ourselves.
Sure.
And I think hopefully we're going to do that. We've had a tendency to do that. GK's offered to really kind of shepherd our benefits discussions and some of that going through. We're also looking at a wellness. In fact, there is going to be a wellness summit near the end of September that I hope all, if not many of I hope all the court and I hope that many of the department heads might also attend, just in an effort to understand what we might have available to us through our healthcare providers. So, but I hope that we're going to target a lot of these decisions in coming to the court maybe before our March or April.
Yes, that's going to. We're going to be talking about benefit-related issues beginning October 1. We're going to go ahead and move forward on the study issue. That'll be funded. You'll make a note in the budget on that. And we're going to push that so that the first 6 months of the fiscal year will have that answer so that you all can factor that in as you prepare for the FY14 budget.
So do I hear a motion with regards to option A?
That is a motion. And I do have one more comment regarding certification pay.
We have a motion, we have a second. Let's do that one, and then because I want to ask about that.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Now let's talk about the certification.
How do we determine which law enforcement employee gets certified as a requirement of maintaining that position? Do we have that?
Our job descriptions certainly include that information. They'll include whether various levels of certification are required for the position. So there is a basic, an intermediate, and a master's certification for both confinement-type individuals and peace officer individuals. And our job descriptions, for the most part, in fact, I'm not familiar with any of the job descriptions that require anything more than a basic currently. And I believe that what the proposal of the Law Enforcement Association is that those individuals that have certifications above and beyond what is required of the job would receive a supplement of some sort as they presented it. Of course, what we would do to track that is those individuals would have to submit the proof that they had obtained those certifications. And those certifications are obtained based on both experience in the position and educational that are related, not like a college degree educational, but educational courses.
Do we have a program like that right now?
No, sir, we do not for law enforcement or anyone else in the county.
So let me be sure I understood what you just said. our requirements, right now, most of our jobs require the basic.
Yes, sir.
And so the above those required would be the intermediate or the master. Didn't the certification include 3 levels of pay?
Yeah, that's what I'm about to look. That's why I was turning to Bobby to make sure I had not,
Well, I think what they're saying is that even the basic level would get.
intermediate, advanced, and masters. I skipped the advanced.
Okay, so you're not saying that we would pay for the basic, it's just the intermediate, advanced, and masters.
And you would only pay for the highest one they qualify for in whatever division they're working. If they're working in confinement, then they would only get, even if they have a master's peace officer or advanced peace officer, they would only get paid for the job they're doing. So they would get an advanced confinement bonus, if you will, incentive pay, which would be $100. If they're a peace officer working as a deputy out on the street or in courts or wherever in operations, and they hold both certifications within confinement and peace officer, they would only get the peace officer. All right?
Okay.
And in order to implement this, we suggest as a law enforcement association that they provide HR payroll with a copy of their certificate from TCLOS showing they have met the qualifications and are certified with whatever that certification is. So if they've received their advanced certification, then they have to take that. TCLOS will send them a certificate, and they should have to provide HR with a copy of that.
The reason I favor doing this is because the sheriff encourages his employees to get these certifications anyway, with the belief that it makes for a better workforce. We're just not paying for it.
But my concern is, for example, the IT department. Many employees have to be certified and recertified at least on an annual basis because technologies change almost regularly. And it comes back to a philosophy that I think we need to talk about is, do we want to treat law enforcement employees exactly the same as other employees? And if so, why? I think we have to establish that fundamental first. Secondly, I like the concept of rewarding or compensating employees for continued education and improved performance. But don't we do that already during the merit pool evaluation?
If you look at the evaluations, and you have to score 3 to qualify for a step or structure adjustment, whatever is the case that year, that's just the bare minimum qualifications of a person out there doing their job. That's not somebody who has taken extra steps and gone above and beyond and is doing extra. I mean, because it's, you do the bare minimum, you're going to get this. All right? And with the certification pay, you're talking about guys who've gone out there on their own, used their vacation time, their own money to go out there sometimes to take these classes to get this certification because of manpower issues within the sheriff's office. It took me 15 years to get my certifications because of manpower issues and classes getting canceled because there wasn't enough people available to fill the class. And so you're talking about rewarding officers for going out, doing above and beyond. And, I don't know how you can really try to place law enforcement amongst other county employees when you look at what we face on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, I know. I mean, and how much harder is it to find quality law enforcement officers versus IT personnel, to use your example?
So it comes down to that fundamental difference. We have to come to a consensus that if we decide that law enforcement employees are different than non-law enforcement employees, and if so, why? We have to establish that fundamental philosophy first before we can build a totally different compensational system. Because you do understand, for example, Tina Glenn, She just obtained her master's degree in public administration, right? Did she get certification paid for that? You see, how do we make sure that our policy is applied equally and fairly to all employees? But if we think that law enforcement officers ought to be treated differently because of their hazardous duty, which I agree, because I used to serve in the military and I do get hazardous pay when I have to jump off an airplane and so forth. So, but do we have that policy as a county? That is something we need to talk about.
Well, I know in the past, through all our pay proposals and working with the court's always leaned towards trying to put us all in one pool, all right, looking at us all the same. And I think on certain issues, you can't look at us all the same.
Bobby, I want to disagree with you on that because the step system in and of itself, in most instances, gives law enforcement more money than what our employees, our non-law enforcement employees get. Our non-law enforcement employees don't get uniform allowances. They don't get those types of things. So, your step systems in many of the instances are 4.5% to 5%. So I would say to what Commissioner Wynn is asking, I think we have made that distinction. And I think through our through the study and through the survey, we probably will continue to do that. So I think consciously as a county we have done that. We do not pay for continuing education for that building full of attorneys. We don't, and a lot of the certification for the IT folks, I think we pay for those continuing education courses in that deal. So unlike, we don't pay for the law enforcement part. So we've got inconsistencies as it pertains.
Well, the point I was wanting to make, Judge, was if you look across the state through cities and counties, it is common practice that they treat and look at law enforcement different than their non-law enforcement employees. Commissioner Fick, as mayor of Southlake, he can probably attest to that. They were looked at differently. And it's the same with any other city in the county. And we're trying to address ongoing issues here, and we feel like certification pay is the step in the right direction, and to bring in quality employees that will stay here, and that we don't have to spend anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 rehiring somebody.
I would think that, one, we might look at some type of system that reimburses law enforcement for their costs, whether it be a percentage of it, but there also needs to be a system where that law enforcement person, they need to be approved to take that course if they want reimbursement. I think they've got to be hand in hand. And if we are going to go back through all this, hopefully early spring, first of the year, maybe we can come up with something that's a little more, that works for both sides, that can reward that certification, maybe not to the level that we're talking, but also partially compensate those officers for their time if it's not being paid for by the sheriff's department. I don't see that as any different than our normal education program that we're doing compensation on a regular basis, and we're ending up, the whole purpose of that is Tarrant County ends up with a better employee. That employee has a better opportunity if they have that education. And I think that benefits all of us, but it's got to be something that's fair to everybody.
Well, Bobby, I studied your proposal thoroughly, and I like the concept behind some of your detailed proposal a lot. However, from my perspective, we need to take a more cautious approach and more thorough approach to examining the entire compensational package for the law enforcement employees. So I would hope that when we conduct this study, we should make it a point to look at other compensational packages for the law enforcement elsewhere, and to address the compressional issues, the words, whatever, other areas that are of your concern once and for all. So that way, we don't have to keep going back on an annual basis to deal with the same issues over and over again. I think that is a more effective approach. I mean, I hope you agree with me there.
And I do agree, and we, want to be a part of that process. However, right here today, I feel like that y'all need to seriously consider the certification pay for this fiscal year, because in the end, it is something that most agencies do pay, and it is a step, a step more in a positive towards solving the problem at hand. And we feel like, it's something that can be done this year, and that we should act upon it this year and get it done.
And just for your consideration, you might remember the estimate we had provided, excuse me, for the first year of certification pay would be about $840,000, $839, and that was just an estimate because we don't really have a pure, true count on those individuals
And I think
that have
was
certification.
without fringe benefits. So you add
That's
fringe
correct.
benefits on that, it's over $1 million.
In certification.
Correct.
For me, right now, I'm not prepared to make that decision. I think we need to study that issue more thoroughly.
I don't have a problem with studying it more thoroughly as long as we don't kick the can down the road any further than March the 1st.
I will personally make sure that we don't kick the can down the road.
How can you do that?
With your help. With your help, sir.
Thank you, Rob.
Wise decision, Robin, wise decision.
We will be back.
Okay, that ends our budget discussions for today. We're going to be, coming back next Tuesday, and we'll be finalizing the rest of the budget, because we'll be passing our budget, asking you to approve our budget on the 11th. Members of the Court, we can move to item C now. This concerns strategic planning activities. This is an item that Commissioner Wynn has asked that we place that on the agenda. Just a little history on this. In times past, we have gone into strategic planning activities with the court. We have been for the last several years, that we keep updating some of the basics that were discussed during that period of time. Commissioner Wynn and I have had conversations about gearing the strategic planning up again. I know that Judge Woodley has been involved in some of those, and Commissioner Wynn, if you have comments.
Yes, I understand that it has been about 7 years since we have reassessed the strategic direction of the county, and I have been communicating to several department heads, and I was told that if we, as a county, have a more clearly defined vision, it would make it easier for them to lead their organization, their departments, and so forth. In my experience, I think it would be more effective, based on my personal experience, if we understand what strategic goals are important to us, and therefore we are able to align our limited resources, including financial resource, toward those goals. However, I have also been told that strategic planning can't be done within county government because of the horizontal nature of county government. And I do understand, and I think that strategic planning cannot be effective without the total buy-in of all elected officials and the department heads. And if we are going to engage in this, we have to do it right. If we just merely go through a an exercise, then we shouldn't even be wasting all time with that. And that is my comment.
Other comments? I mean, I think that we need to do it. We have got several things coming up with regards to our health benefits, our wellness program, we've talked about HRAs and HSAs, and I think it's going to require something more than just a cursory, work session or discussion that we have here at Commissioners Court. I do agree that I think we may want to consider this time. In the past, we've kind of done a day or a day and a half type thing. I think we may want to invite groups of elected officials in, whether it be the judges in the courts or whether it be our 5 major departments that really affect most of the employees that we have in the county, to sit down and to try to reach a consensus of how we go forward. So I would hope that we could do that over the next year. And again, in an effort to try to allow you to get to the March 1st deadline with some direction from the court and from other folks in this room, then hopefully we can get that done. I don't know if we can get it done in early spring. I mean, I think it's going to be very tough to get it done before the end of this calendar year, but maybe not. So I would just, unless we hear objections, I would suggest that we ask Mr. Manius to, again, look at our calendars and doing that, realizing that we need to give enough time so that if we're going to invite the judges or invite different groups to come in, that they can plan accordingly.
I support it. I think there's issues that pertain pretty much, some of them just to our individual precincts, and I'm not sure those are really to what you would want to be discussing at this, but I think the big picture items, healthcare, our insurance, transportation. I mean, we got a good example. You and I are RTC members, and the other 3 aren't, and we think we know what's important, but I'm not sure we really do to vote to the other 3. And I know Roy is much more involved in healthcare than I am, and just the whole economic development and the other departments. And I thought the meeting we had, what was it, a year and a half ago, where we brought everybody together and we met up and talked about ways to save money. I thought that was an extremely effective meeting, and I thought we got some decent results out of it. So I agree.
Strategic planning is not a new concept for Tarrant County. We've done it many times before. It is time to do it again. So let's get at it.
Let me back up and ask a question. We're going to wait until we do anything on these, on that last item we discussed at the sheriff's office until March. Now in March, if we decide to go ahead and pay for this extra training, are we going to start paying then, or is it going to be next budget year?
March is when we hope to have all the studies completed, because that's when all the budget information goes into the budget.
So the answer to my question is
next budget year, yes.
Does it have to be that way? If there's surplus dollars that might cover it?
This board can do anything that 3
Well,
votes can
we can't answer that question today, but
We would have to probably adopt an adjusted budget, or we would have to pull it out of our own designated. And I think that's, again, part of what the whole discussion is going to be about is
just clarification. I don't want anybody to be misled that expect in March that we may get this extra pay.
I think it would be
not going to happen.
Probably not going to happen. I think it would probably be the next budget year. And I think what Bobby was saying to some extent is that we've done this in a number of things where, we're all busy and we all get focused on what's going on today and this week and this month. And we usually find ourselves in March or April, we usually find ourselves in May or June starting the discussions when we're too deep into budget to really be able to figure it out. So I think if we can get a lot of these conversations on the table in March, then we'll all have a chance to, to understand a little bit more about what they are and spend a little bit more time discussing it. So I agree with what you're saying. I don't want there to be any misunderstandings, Commissioner Johnson. I think we need to go out of here thinking that it'll be next year when we ultimately make a decision on that. And in the meantime,
I guess it's been an annual request for, what, about the last 5 or 6 years?
It's time for us to take a serious look at it. And personally for me, I'm not kicking this issue down the road, okay, for me.
well, I'd say to some extent, I'm not going to say we hadn't seriously looked at it. Well, our budget has been such that, we couldn't afford it, and because I think we're all very committed to no tax increase. Those are the kind of things that we have to keep in mind as we go forward. And at the same time, we have continued where many of our other entities in this, whether they be counties or cities or school districts or anywhere else, in many of the years where they've not given increases, we've been able to give something to our employees. And it's because I think we are very conservative about the use of the taxpayer dollars. And I know we're going to continue to do that.
That's all we have at this time.
And with that, I'll recess our open meeting. David, did you have something? I saw you waving back there. Did you?
Still need 5 minutes to stay. We'll do it next Tuesday. I got ready. 5 minutes.
Come on up. 18. At your own risk.
Good afternoon. I'd like to update the Commissioners Court on the progress of several facilities management construction projects. First, the 1895 Courthouse Site Improvement Project. We are constructing a concrete vault around the electrical transformers in the basement of the old Civil Courts building so we can demolish the old Civil Courts building and give a permanent home to the electrical transformers. We're also rewiring the feed lines to the historic courthouse in preparation of the demolition project.
When's that going to be done?
We'll complete all that work in the next 60 to 90 days. This fall, the purchasing department will bid the demolition of the old Civil Courts building. I think that'll take 5 to 7 months once work begins. And then about 90 days before the demolition is complete, we'll ask the purchasing department to bid the restoration of the west elevation and grounds of the historic courthouse. The entire project will wrap up in 2014. Moving on to the Calhoun Garage Lighting Project. This is a copy of a check from Encore Electric Delivery Company and made out to Tarrant County. Encore cut that $50,000 check to us because we installed energy-efficient LED lighting in our garage. The new lights should reduce our energy cost about $10,000 a year. This lighting project was quite unique. We put in 170 LED lights in our garage at no cost to the county, and we got a $36,000 extra on top of that we put in the bank. We received that check from Encore. We also received federal grant money regarding on the Department of Energy Efficiency and Conservation block grant. Now, the lights cost $116,000. The block grant provided $105,000, and Encore provided $50,000. I'd like to thank Encore for the check. I'd like to thank Todd Allen with the Department of Energy, who was patient with me and my staff, working through all the federal government rules and regulations regarding the grant money. And also I'd like to thank the Auditor's Office for helping us out. Cold Springs Jail, the HVAC replacement, the smoke purge system replacement, and the generator replacement project is complete. All areas have been approved by Texas Commission on Jail Standards. That $2 million project was partially funded with $1.2 million of the federal energy grant, and another check from Encore Electric Delivery Company for $50,000 will be coming shortly. I'd like to thank Encore, Todd Allen, and the Auditor's Office again. Also, I'd like to thank Mike Amador for bird dogging these Encore grants to make sure my department does what we do, whatever we need to do necessary to get this money in the door. The new jail project, the ribbon cutting ceremony is September 18th. Next door, the Correction Center Fire Alarm Security Replacement Project. I'm disappointed this work has not already been completed. I've instructed Gilbane Building Company to do whatever it takes to get finished with the project and get out of the building before September 30th. The main issue we're having is we're finding it difficult to integrate the new security system touchscreen technology with the 1980s field technology equipment. Also, on top of that, the security contractor is having some programming issues of his own making. Also, staring us in the face, the contractor is supposed to relocate the elevator controls to the new security control room on another floor. The issue we're going to have, that those over hundreds of wires are in the back of that control panel, and they're not marked to anywhere as what they terminate to. It is, in my opinion, it is going to be, when they start figuring out where those wires go and trying to work through it, we're going to have a elevator service disruption to beat all in that jail. I've been talking with our purchasing department, and we'll be engaging our elevator service contractor who services our elevators on an annual basis to assist Gilbane and the security contractor to get this work done. Moving on to our medical examiner's office project, the U.S. Green Building Council has given us notice that the new crime lab has earned a LEED Gold level certification, which means we have a building that's been designed, built, and operates as a sustainable, energy-efficient building. Regarding closeout of this crime lab project, we hope to have all the contractor lien releases, the affidavits of payments of debts and claims, and the consent of sureties in the next few weeks so we can turn loose the $800,000 that we're holding from the construction manager in retainage. After that, to make sure we don't have any potential claims, I'm going to present to you a $2.7 million renovation project to renovate the old labs and the old medical examiner's office building to conference and office so the medical examiners can improve his ability to meet and to train local law enforcement agencies, and we can vacate the JPS building next door. Lastly, the Civil Courts building project.
How much money are we going to be saving by vacating that lease, JPS?
$3,000 a month.
$36,000.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also adjacency issues and space issues. Lastly, the Civil Courts building project. The excavation into the Fort Worth limestone is complete and at the correct elevation of 15 feet deep. The retention wall around the perimeter of the hole is 75% complete. The tower crane and the drill pier work will commence next month. Please be advised that we're a few days behind schedule on the project because we ran into some unmarked street light wires under the sidewalk on Weatherford Street, right in the way where we had to dig for an electrical vault. Yates and Van Dyne construction managers has assured me that they will make up that time in the next few weeks. This is probably the most important thing I'll say this afternoon. The construction time delay could have been a lot longer if it wouldn't have been for the city of Fort Worth. It could have been several weeks. And I'd like to thank a few folks who allowed us to jump ahead of the line in the approval and permitting process for the city of Fort Worth regarding in their Transportation and Public Works Department. They really came to bat for us. First, Randy Burkett, who's the traffic engineer for the city of Fort Worth. He's been a friend of Tarrant County for many, many years. Also, I've got some names of some folks in the Transportation Public Works who really bent over backwards to make it happen. Ken Brock, Mike Dominic, Mike Layer, Wade Miller, Darrell Ruffin, Victor Turano, all with the city of Fort Worth, and we appreciate their effort. And that's all I have this morning.
Clock tower celebration.
I'd like to defer to G.K. Manius on that.
Well, we're going to do it before March of next year. We had one time we're trying to schedule it in September, but because of the heat and everything, we're probably looking at an October, late October date.
Are we going to do it on the roof?
What we intend to do is to occupy Main Street out in front of the building.
Let's wait until the mosquitoes go away.
Can we have them come by and spray the day before? So get all the mosquitoes out of the way?
I'll defer to Mr. Phillips on that.
No, but we get some memos out on it.
I would like to point out that the downtown TIF district's lease on our Calhoun Street parking garage is coming to an end. We need to look at whether or not we're going to renew that lease. I would certainly suggest that we do, because it's an important part of the evening and weekend parking infrastructure for downtown, plus it provides us with money.
Back on my celebration for the Clock Tower, are we looking, do you think, maybe October or?
Latter part of October, yes.
Halloween?
Actually, we tried to schedule it a couple times, and it was right during the period where it was very, very hot. And we couldn't schedule it that met a lot of the timelines for the court members. But yes, we were looking at a fall issue. I know we shouldn't have jested about the March thing.
Well, I thought it was on my calendar at one point in time, and then I thought.
It was, but we couldn't coordinate all the schedules of the board members on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Moon?
Not at this time, Your Honors.
Anybody out there want to? We'll now recess our open meeting to proceed to closed session, discuss items. Having returned from closed session and there being no business to address at this time, we're adjourned.